Hey, what's up, Men of Valor? Welcome back to the Men of Valor podcast, season 2, episode 29. Man, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see that it's something totally different than usually what happens. We are here as we're recording this up in Black Mountain, North Carolina at the Ridgecrest Conference Center. We're up here, man, just doing some planning, and hopefully a little bit later today in today's episode, we're going to be sharing with you, man, just kind of a where we are as a ministry, what we see, some things we've been planning. But man, we want to say thank you so much for also joining us every week. We do want to share right here at the beginning, before I forget, this will be our last episode for the time being. That'll be on YouTube. So this week you'll see this on YouTube. Starting next week, episode 30 of season 2, we're just going to be audio only. So you can, of course, find us on all the audio platforms. Just trying to, right now, I'm just not getting a lot of good pull from YouTube for our podcast. So we just felt as a decision, we're going to be doing that. So this will be the last time you see the podcast on YouTube. Make sure you're still subscribed on the YouTube, because Man Up Monday's there. We'll be sharing content from the conference after there on that. So, man, how you guys doing? It ain't all about me. How's everybody? Randall, how are you?
Man, I'm doing good. Excited to be here. It's been a good weekend so far, and just a lot of fun, a lot of planning. Good to see you guys face to face.
Yeah.
I'm excited for what's to come.
Yeah. No, it's you hit it on the head there. It's good to get face to face time. We always say that in ministry, especially since we're all involved in so much digitally. It's always great. That's what makes the conference so great.
Yeah.
And just excited to be together. Obviously, 3 of the 4 are here. We don't have Jordan with us.
Yeah.
Jordan, if you're part of our community, you already kind of know he shared on there. If you're not, you should be a part of our community so you stay connected. Hello.
Yeah.
But no, Jordan, he just provided an update. He's been a little bit absent, and he recognizes some of you guys have picked up on that. He's working through some things at home, and we're trying to love and lead well with him through that.
Yeah.
So he couldn't make the trip this week. It's been a very, very stressful, chaotic year. Their family's been hit with a lot. So, and he shared a lot of that already in prayer requests in the app. So I encourage you, just keep them in prayer. And he's still all in with MOV, and that keeps us excited too, because we know what he brings to the table. So enough of that. We got a lot to get into, a lot to cover. We are just so excited, as always, that you're taking time to check out the podcast here with Men of Valor. There's so much you can spend your time with, and you've chosen this for whatever reason, and we are grateful. So God bless you for that. We're gonna stop this banter up front and get after it.
This is the Men of Valor podcast. We exist to help men grow as disciples of Jesus.
Welcome to season 2. We're glad you're here.
Let me tell you, I once was a sinner, but I am no longer a sinner. I am a saint. I am a son of the living God Most High.
Go home, embrace your wife with no expectations, and tell her that you love her, and ask her, how can I lead you? Tell me what you need. Be transparent, be open, be honest.
But if we arm ourselves and we never use what we have, that's useless.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening. Here are your hosts, Travis Watson, Eric Stewart, Jordan Loggins, and Randall Ballou. Let's get after it.
Welcome back to Men of Valor podcast. We're so glad that you are joining us today. And as you heard earlier, I'm joined with Eric and Travis. And man, we've just had a great time the past couple of days, just kind of planning and thinking through what Men of Valor conference looks like for 2024, and also looking into the future for 25 and even into 26, trying to just get our ducks in a row, make sure everything is squared away. And it's just been a really, really good time. And we're so thankful for each of you, thankful for the conference. We want to encourage you, if you are not registered for the conference yet, please get registered. Go ahead and start booking your room, start getting things squared away, because we're going to fill up fast. And man, we're really looking forward to what God's going to do. And so a great lineup of speakers, a great group of main session speakers, and the band will be back with us again. And I'm really looking forward to it, guys.
Yeah, man, it's going to be good. I want to go back on what you said, man. Guys, we found out that there's going to be a couple other groups here with us during the weekend. So it's vital that you go ahead and call Ridgecrest and get your room booked. You don't have to pay everything up front. Just part of it, you pay the rest of it when you get here, just to make sure, just in case these groups are big as we are, we don't want to run out of room. We don't want you to be calling saying they got no more room. So don't procrastinate. If you know you're coming, go ahead and just call, make that reservation. That helps them plan. It also helps us plan to make sure that we know you're coming, so we're ready. So if you're listening to this and you're planning on coming 2024, go get registered with us or MOV, call Ridgecrest and get your rooms booked up and ready to go.
Yeah, let me say this too. We unashamedly are going to promote this over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with wanting to be big or large. If you caught last week's podcast,
Yeah,
that's the reason this matters to us. I would encourage you, go and check it out. Not for anything we had to offer, but what our guests last week had to share. It's powerful to be a part of something where we get to see God literally transform lives. We've seen marriages restored. We've seen people obtain freedom from addictions of all different sorts. Most importantly, seeing people come to a relationship with Jesus Christ. Amen. Every year we've had that at the conference, and it never, ever, ever gets old. So when we walk around, as we have been the last couple of days, looking at buildings, dreaming about what God might do, we're looking at, okay, God, if you want to do something even bigger and reach more men, we're all about that.
Yeah.
And if you want us to stay in our lane and where we're at, we're going to be as faithful as we can and be all about that as well. And so it's exciting. I mean, if you've been here, you know, but it's exciting to walk the halls, walk the rooms, go in different buildings, and just be like, God, what could you possibly want to do in this space?
Yeah.
And I love it. I'm ready to start the conference today.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah, so that's something we've been looking at, guys, and that's one of the reasons we meet up here every year in April, or try to, is to put those final touches on, so all of us know in the next couple of months, hey, this is what we got to get done, so we make sure we're prepared, because we try our best to do everything with excellence for you guys. We're not perfect by no means, but we want to try to serve you, and we got so many men that come and volunteer with us and help serve and do just a great job. Our first impression teams, the band, as Travis alluded to, man, just the guys doing sound, and so many more. I mean, there's so many more that just do stuff, that just show up and help put out chairs, help stack stuff, and just make sure, that we're ready for you guys to get here. So just some of the stuff that we've already talked about that's coming up for this conference. Man, I'm ready for it to get here.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss it. Because I really think it's going to be just another life-changing weekend. We get asked all the time, or I do anyway. I don't know about you guys, but man, do you think this year's conference is going to be better than last year's conference?
Tough question.
And I always say, I don't think you can compare them,
Yeah.
because each one has their special, unique thing that God does in individual men. Just like we heard the testimony last week from Randy. Man, every year there's those few guys that just got that powerful testimony on God did something, where it's delivering them from an addiction, or man, just saving their soul, or just connecting them with some brotherhood. So man, we want to challenge you. If you can be here, be here. We're excited. I wish I could share some of the stuff that we're getting ready, but they won't let me. So it's on them, guys. I apologize. Don't reach out to me personally. They've got all my phone staff.
And here's the thing, and it literally, you begin to see God work from the time men show up on the campus to check in.
Yeah.
I mean, before even the first session, you see God touching lives, and even a lot of our first timers, if you're listening to this podcast, you could testify, like, just those wow moments of, not that we're doing something big and special and out of this world, but the presence of God is just here. And I think one thing God blesses us with, and I think it's been true, as humbly as I can say it, when we, like this weekend, when we get together and we're talking through the conference details, and we're looking at the schedules, and we're looking at the rooms, and we're looking at all the logistical details to make this happen, at the forefront of our mind, as we're looking at all these things, we keep coming back to the questions of, what is it God wants us to communicate? What is the primary thing we're trying to come across with? What is it that the message is supposed to be communicated? We look at different speakers. Obviously, we got multiple breakout speakers. We've got 4 main session speakers. We're always looking at, okay, is this person going to be effective at communicating not only the heart of what we want to be about, but communicating the heart of God, most importantly. Yeah. And I think God honors that. I really do. That there's that kind of, we don't tell anybody, hey, you got to teach this topic in this
Yeah.
way and these words and this passage, but we just say, hey, here's our theme. Go with God's freedom, and it is powerful to just sit back and let it happen.
Yeah.
It is. And man, personally, I'm excited because, this year I get to jump back in a breakout session, and I'm bringing alongside me a good dear friend of mine to help lead these young men. His name's John Blackford. He's a next gen pastor. You may have heard him on the podcast a few weeks ago, but man, we really are searching and praying about who is going to be a vital voice in the lives of these men and young men, and just reviewing the list of breakout speakers today and thinking about what some of those guys are going to talk about. Some of them have gotten to us. Some of them are still praying through it. It's really neat to see just kind of the broad just group of topics that is discussed. And you got guys from all different kinds of, life, different places, different lifestyles, all different kinds of people. And man, God just works through that. And there's tons of options. Those options will be available for you to select and participate in those breakout sessions. But I firmly believe you're not going to go wrong with any of them.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't come with the expectation. I would even challenge you this. Don't come with the expectation of going to a session of somebody that just because you know them.
Yeah.
Challenge yourself to maybe go because a topic is intriguing, or maybe you're just going to take a chance and you're going to go to this session because, man, these are guys that we trust, guys that we love, and we've heard them speak and teach, and they're solid. They're solid. And so, man, I'm looking forward to that, looking forward to the main sessions and just kind of seeing what God does through those. Like these guys have said, we've had people saved and lives changed and marriages restored. And it's just pretty remarkable that we've got guys flying from halfway across the country to show up and, participate and be a part of what we do. And Travis mentioned and Eric mentioned both, we walking through these buildings today. We walked through just about every building you can walk through. Some we probably weren't supposed to walk through. And so, but it was really cool because the whole time we're walking through these buildings, I'm not just thinking about, oh, this is a cool space. I'm thinking, man, how many men can we serve in this area? Like, how can we utilize this space for ministry? And man, we got the opportunity to go back into Lambden today, where our conference will be held this year, and it was just weird's not the word, but just like a somber, just a sense of humility being in that room, because like you remember what God's done, but you know what He's gonna do in the future. And so and the hosts here have been great. The lady that we've been talking to and the team that they have here, they love us. They're excited. It was pretty cool today too to see Miss Annette, the lady that is kind of in charge of things, has a Men of Valor hat in her office on display. And that's pretty big. I mean, as many groups come through here, she's willing to, advertise and display our merch because she believes in what we do. And so that's pretty cool.
I think what I would also throw out and challenge you with, if you're on the fence about the conference, I mean, by the time the conference rolls around in August, we're already at a place, and this isn't trying to, hoodwink you into trying to come or something like that, but we're already in a place in our culture and our world where there's just so much just bitterness and inward fighting, hostility. And not just within our own country and our own culture here in the States, but around the world. I mean, there's trouble, there's wars breaking out everywhere. There's just all kinds of chaos and stuff going on. And as men, we can get so wrapped up in the day-to-day of life that we lose sight. One of the things we're talking about this morning, we lose sight that this kingdom is not where we belong. This isn't our home. We're citizens of heaven. And more than ever, we need each other. More than ever, we need to kind of step back, pull away from the routine of everyday life, come together with other brothers in Christ, worship together, open the sacred text, allow God to speak to us through the Holy Spirit, and allow Him to do work in us. It's not just come and get cheered up, but it's also a come and this is our prayer for us as the executives of the ministry as well, is God, do a work in us. Like, I can't wait, and I'll spoiler alert, Eric's gonna open up the conference main session speakers. So if you haven't decided to get here the first night, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss what God is going to do that first night, I think. And so, like, I can't encourage you enough. There's 10 million reasons why you shouldn't come, You're going to be busy. You're going to have financial stuff. Not sure if you can ask for more time off. Maybe this isn't the year. I have dear friends, people that I love, that have consistently told me year after year after year, not this year, but next year, not this year, but next year. And every year I think, man, they missed it again. They missed it again.
Yeah.
I want to encourage you. I think it would be one of the greatest investments for your spiritual health, for your families, your communities that you can make, is to come and say, God, I want to come as a canvas and let you create whatever it is you want to create in me, and go back and change the world.
Man, that's so good. So, guys, if that's you and you're listening to this, I'll tell you what, we're going to put in the show notes. We'll put a link to another YouTube video where I go through and just explain. It takes about 15 minutes, and I explain all the costs, what it looks like, the schedule. So if you got any questions about it, that video should help. And if you still have questions, hit us up on the website, shoot us an email. We'd love to help answer any questions you got about the conference, because I know there can be a whole lot of questions when you come in something like this. So it is, and I know this, guys, we know this, it is an investment to be here, a financial investment, because you got to travel to get here, the cost for the hotel, the room, but I promise you this, I can almost guarantee, if you come with an open heart saying, God, would you do something for me? I promise God will be faithful. God will be faithful, not because of who we are or what we can do, but because of what he can do through the men he's going to have here. And this is what we've seen, man. It's not even the men that we have lined up speakers, but it's just a guy that just showed up, willing to love on somebody, willing to pray with somebody. And all of a sudden he helps a brother walk through something that is part of God's lineup, not ours.
Yeah.
So I challenge you, check out that link in the show notes below. If you got any more questions about the conference, we'd love to see you. Like I said, we say this almost every year. I get excited about 2026 because we have done some 2026 planning while we're here too. And but you'll find out more about that at this year's conference. So be here to find out about 2026 as well, because, man, we're excited about kind of where we see God taking that journey for 2025. I said 26, and we do have 26 dates already plugged in as well. So, but we'll do 2025. We're planning. We're not that much planning on 2026. But man, we hope you guys can be here. So
I know we're going to jump into here in a minute and talk through some of the stuff we've been working on, and give you some teasers for some upcoming stuff potentially. But I'd like to take a minute, each of us maybe, and share, and I'll give you some time to think, but share like one of your favorite memories of all the years so far that you've been doing the conference. Just what's something that sticks out at you that we can share to be an encouragement to other people, or that we've seen God do. And what's, I'll share mine last. I'll talk here for a second, give you guys a second. But as we're walking around the campus this morning, even telling Annette, it's amazing what God has done since this whole thing kicked off with just a handful of people, and a burden that God put on yours and Jordan's heart, Eric, to just say, hey, what would it look like to minister to men? And what started in, if you don't know the story, this small country town in Georgia, Lula, Georgia, in just a church of beautiful people at Liberty Baptist, God planted this seed. And through that, literally, we're humbled, but God is touching the world through various aspects of this ministry. And to see where it was, and none of us ever had any desire to say, hey, let's make this thing big and massive, but to just kind of, like I told Annette, we're just a couple bumpkins here. We're all trying to stay out of God's way and not mess it up. It's been powerful to see that. So Randall, I'll turn it over to you, let you jump in first, but what's something that really stands out to you as a favorite memory?
Man, it's a couple things. The first one, I'm kind of conflicted. I don't know why I ended up in Lula, Georgia. We have talked about this before, and I've tried to go back and read messages, phone calls. I have no idea. I just remember Stephen Brown said, hey, we're going to Lula. We're going to Men of Valor Conference. And I was like, okay. And then they showed up. We're in the car and we're going. and here's where I'm conflicted. Show up in Lula, don't know anybody. Kind of know Eric and a few of the guys, but don't really know anybody. I sit down on the front row, and Mr. Bill Shine comes and sits right by me, and he's never left since. He lives rent-free in my brain. And so, no, in all seriousness, he is a dear brother. And so, I mean, just his willingness and obedience to, seek the person who may not know everybody, may not kind of have his people yet. He showed up, and man, he embraced me. And first time we met, he gave me a hug, and I'm like, why are you hugging me? I don't hug people. And man, we've been brothers ever since, and we talk, daily, weekly. And then just to see the growth, just to see the vision of what would Men of Valor look like if we upped it a notch and we said, hey, let's start reaching young men. And I remember the first year here at Ridgecrest, or let me back up, my first year at Lula, there were some young men there, but there wasn't really any energy behind it. And then the first year here at Ridgecrest, I remember, looking around and saying, hey, there's several young guys here, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys. And I'm like, maybe that's some potential. And then, these guys prayed about it and felt led to ask me if I would come on the executive team. And when they did, I told them my heart for young men. And then that first year, I mean, we're filling up a breakout session, having the young men. And then last year, 2 breakout sessions. And man, it's just cool because you don't see a lot of conferences, men's conferences. I don't see any that are offering something for the sons. And one thing I'm real excited about is something we're working through, and I'll go ahead and spoil it a little bit. But this year,
Don't do it. Just kidding.
This year,
Y'all told me not to.
well, this year we are going to strategically and prayerfully. There's going to be an element included to this weekend that is going to minister to the father's heart and to the son's heart simultaneously. And so that's all I'll say about that, other than, men, if you are contemplating on bringing your son, this is going to be the year to bring him. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what God's going to do through that. I'm excited to help equip you as a father, and then help your son as a disciple. And so, man, really those 2 things, just there's the connection with guys like Bill and everybody else, but then, man, just to see the growth, just to see where God has taken this. And like I said, who knows where he takes it, but we're just going to hang on tight and trust him.
Yeah, good. That's good. For me, man, there's so many. So many. And mine's just simply, man, just to see guys' lives change. For me, it's more of what we get to see after the conference. We get to see that guy, or I get that text, man, said, hey, my wife, a month in, he's texting me back. My wife says, man, she says she sees somebody different. I come back different. And knowing that was God working something through the breakouts they went to, through the main sessions they heard, through the worship, through the brotherhood. But one that stands out to me, if I had to pick just one, there's so many that's running through my head. One was from last week, and it might be part of yours, so I'm not going to share that one. No, but the one, William Dole. I remember y'all know William, Rich's son, William. I remember it was either 2021, I think it was 21 or 2022. He shows up with Rich. Rich brings him. And I remember seeing him. He's sitting on the front bench. And man, he just looked so lost and just like, what am I even doing here? And then all of a sudden in one of the sessions, I took a picture of it because I was standing right there. I'm not real big on taking pictures in moments like that, but man, all of a sudden he goes down the altar. He surrenders his life to Christ. The next morning, I remember the next morning, I believe it was that Friday night, he surrendered his life to Jesus. He come down, he surrendered his life to Jesus. He comes up front to publicly make his faith known. The next morning is the morning it hit me. I turned, this guy's been standing like this the whole conference. During worship, all of a sudden I see this big old boy and his hands go up. And all of a sudden, a guy that was broken, a guy that was hurting, a guy that was probably wondering, what the crap am I even doing here? Yep. Jesus radically changed his life. And the next thing, and I just remember seeing him, and right there beside him, his daddy. Yeah. Rich is right beside him, just praising the Lord. I'm sure Rich is praising God for what he's seeing in his son's life. So that one's one that stands out to me, because I'll just never forget William coming up that evening to the front of the stage and just standing there saying that he surrendered his life to Christ. And then, like I said, the next morning, seeing a total different countenance, seeing a total different, all of a sudden, he's not just, but all of a sudden, man, he's opened up and just, that's what I could go on, but I know we got a lot of stuff we want to cover. So what about you, Bubba? Go ahead.
You're getting me all choked up in my feelings, man. My eyes are leaking. Man, like these guys, there are so many memories I could draw on. And I have so many faves. I will say it's a general thing that happens every year, and I'm blessed, I'm humbled. And part of this wanting to even ask these guys this question for you guys to hear is we're blessed. We are so blessed because of our position. We get to be kind of on the front line and have a lot of these conversations. We get to peek behind the curtain. Whatever analogy you want to use, we're often blessed and honored that we're aware of what God's doing, and we realize not everybody gets to see that or hear these type of things. But one thing that I am humbled tremendously by every year at the conference is multiple men. I would say minimum 3 to 4 guys minimum every year will single me out to pray, but to confess sin.
Yeah.
And scripture says confess your sins to one another, and that there's healing that takes place when that happens. And it is so honoring and so humbling to have another man come up to you and say, can I unburden my soul about how I've been as a husband in my marriage, and that I'm looking at a divorce when I get home if something doesn't change because of my actions. Or a guy that comes up and says, I've been struggling with secret pornography addiction and it's cost me every relationship I have. What can I do? Things like that. And we're not the answer guys. This isn't to say, hey, make sure you come to us. We're gonna fix you up. All I do in those moments really is try and show love, compassion, and just pray with them and pray over them. And we get to have, like you said, Eric, follow-up conversations in days and weeks and months after the conferences are out of the way. But it is such a joy because you literally get to experience the hand of God, the heart of the Father, touching the heart of his sons, basically saying, come home.
Yeah.
Come home. And man, I'm gonna start crying again. It is powerful. It's one of the greatest experiences at the conference, and one reason I'm just so excited for it to come back around. I can't wait to see, like, God, what are you gonna do in me? What are you gonna do in people around me? And man, I hope he shows up and shows out and just wrecks us all, for his glory.
Yeah.
And we know he will. We know he will.
Yeah.
Well, fellas, why don't we maybe shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit about some of the stuff we planned. And I wanna do something. I want to talk about something that I'm excited about. Eric showed up this weekend with a backpack full of cool stuff and something we want to kind of present to you, and I'll let him talk about it. But we it's your
Go ahead.
We're going to have some cool things this year. We want to continue to supply you with resources, but also, some different merch items and things. And so we may not go into detail on what some of those are, but we may a little bit. But I do want to tell you, hey, you're going to have an opportunity to grab some merch, some Men of Valor stuff, and we're kind of expanding our options.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you what any of them are, but I'll let Eric tell you, if he wants to, what some of them are. So that's just something cool, man. That's just something cool about our ministry. You've kind of heard our hearts and why we do what we do, but we also want to get you some cool stuff out there so you can start conversations.
So I'll say this. I'm not going to go into detail, no more stuff, but I'll say this. A lot of the stuff we're going to have this year is personalized handmade stuff that we got a guy that's wanting to partner with us and help us in that area. So there's going to be some really cool stuff there that you can't get nowhere else, because it ain't nothing we ordered online. It ain't nothing we had shipped in. It's something that a dear friend of our ministry is wanting to help us along, just to be a blessing to our ministry. So going to be some real neat stuff. Like I said, I can't guarantee that he'll be available outside the conference. So another reason, be at the conference to get some stuff. We're limited on what we can get. So when you get there, if you see something you like, you might want to grab it, because once they go on, they go on.
That's right.
Because we're trying to be good stewards with the money that God's given us, and so we'll say that with that. Another something that we've talked about and planned this weekend, as most of you know, we do a 5K every year, but last year we kind of changed gears on that. In the past, we'd used 5K as kind of a fundraiser just to help bring funds into the ministry to help do. Because let's just be honest, ministry takes money. What we do costs money for us to be able to put on a conference like this. But God has been blessing through guys like you faithfully joining us, supporting our ministry financially, becoming monthly subscribers, just to say, hey, I believe in what y'all are doing. So we want to say thank you for those guys, and that's options available on our. If you're something you feel value that you'd like to just be a part financially, man, we would love and be honored for you to do that. But because of that, last year we got to change it up, and we get to give 100% of that money that we raised through our 5K away. That was our heart. So we changed it last year. We call it our MOV Missions Run. And our heart is that we want to support a local ministry here in the Black Mountain, Asheville area. Last year it was Black Mountain Home. We've actually this year got Dan from Black Mountain Home is coming to be one of our breakout speakers this year. So just the way God just interacts that thing. But this year we're excited to have, he's going to be speaking at the conference this year, but a church plant that just planted a couple years ago, they're fresh started, Hope Church Asheville is going to be our mission partner this year. So, hey guys, be watching. We're planning on having that registration open up around June the 1st, and it's going to run through August the 1st, because there's going to be a t-shirt that comes along with it. We got to have time to order those t-shirts. So be watching for that. It's probably going to be about $40, like I said, but all proceeds go to that. Of course, the part we need to pay for the t-shirt. And then after that, 100% of that, none of that comes to Men of Valor. We'll present that to Hope Church Asheville at the conference, so you guys see that, hey, this is how much money because of your just faithfulness to give. There's also an option, just to let you know, when you register, there'll be an option there for you. If you want to make a donation above your registration, 100% of that is going to go to Hope Church Asheville. So thank you guys. I want to say thank you guys for supporting, for pouring into our ministry. Because of that we can do this 5K now, not as a fundraiser, because we need some funds to make sure the ministry runs, but so we can just give it away and be a blessing to another ministry. So thank you guys for supporting that, and be watching for it. We'll have those registrations coming up this summer.
Yeah, and that's, if you're not familiar with our ministry, I point it out every year at the conference. So you've probably heard this before if you've been to the conference, but if not, like, we're serious when we talk about this being God's ministry.
Yeah.
Like we don't get any money. We don't take a salary or a stipend for what we do or for our time or anything like that. And we're certainly not padding a bank account somewhere where we're building up piles and piles of money so that, you know, we can do this extravagant whatever as a team of executives or anything like that. Everything that comes in for the conference, whether it's our merchandise sales, things like the fund, all of it goes 100% right back into the ministry to make this happen, to make the weekly things happen that we're trying to do. And it's awesome to be a part of that. And one of the things we've been talking about, we can't get into a lot of detail yet. You might hear a ton of it coming in a few weeks here, closer to the conference or at the conference even. But we're constantly kind of evaluating what's going well. What do we need to change? Are there things we need to stop doing? Are there things we should be maybe looking at starting to do? And so with that as a kind of a framework, we've been really kind of honing in on some specific things that we think will be a tremendous help and resource and encouragement, something that you can be a part of if you choose to. You don't have to be at all. Just one more opportunity and resource for you that I think is life-changing. And one of the things that was really neat to me is I had messaged Eric, 2-3 months ago,
like January,
just completely separate of even this weekend, saying, hey, God's putting something on my heart. I'd like to talk to you. You got time for it? And then my personal life kind of imploded with health problems and all kinds of things going on at our home. And I never got to make the call. And then God indirectly put a lot of stuff on Eric's heart, and they just kind of, I feel like they meshed really well together. And so, and just coming together, all of us as a team, it's been amazing. You know, Randal will say something and then we'll jump in and be like, oh, it's perfect. And we'll, just fleshing everything out and seeing what God's doing. So I think God is moving and God is working. And I think over the next year, you're going to see some powerful transformation potentially take place in men's lives. And so we're just excited about that and what that's going to mean and look like. And we don't want to just do it haphazardly. That's why we're not saying, hey, here's a bunch of information and everything. So we still got wrinkles we're ironing out and things like that. But man, it is exciting to dream and talk and plan. And who knows, maybe we do all this and 6 months from now, a year from now, we say, no, that's not what God wants us to do. And we kick it to the curb and keep praying and keep seeking. And maybe it's exactly what he wanted us to do. And we get to be a part of something very special. So, yeah, excited about that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's, see, I'm one of those guys, I don't like to wait. I want to give you your Christmas
I know
present
you do.
now.
I know you do.
So y'all know I'm wanting to share right now, but I'm not.
That's why we got you between Randall and I. So
I know.
one of us can get you.
Because, yeah, because guys, I mean, honestly, just, I shared this with these guys Friday, Saturdays when I shared the document that God had just been putting on me and, just some ideas on something. And I was real honest. I'm being real honest. I was expecting Randall. Randall's my guy that tries to knock me off my pedestal a lot and knocks my ideas down because I'm an ideas guy. And I love him for it because I need that, right? If you got a bunch of yes men around you, you need to get some more people around you. So I do love that about Randall.
Yeah.
So I knew when Randall hit me back up and he said, man, I looked at it. I love it. I was like, okay, that's a God thing because I trust these guys' judgment. And then when we sat down and started talking about it today, I mean, just to watch the ideas flow and just watch how it just all come together. Like I said, so we're telling you this as kind of a, hey, something's coming.
Yeah.
And I believe you're going to want to be a part of it because we're believing that God is orchestrating this whole thing to change men's lives. So we want you to be connected, be at the conference. I can't guarantee that we'll have it ready to launch. We're hoping possibly. Yeah. Just according if everything gets laid out. We're not rushing anything. We want to make sure it's ready because we want it to be done with excellence. But if anything else, get over on our band community because that'll be one of the places that we do share that. So if you're not over on that band community, go join that community. I'll put a link for that band community in the show notes as well. If you're not over there, come and join our online community. It's totally free.
Yeah. And just to be frank, we're not writing a book. So we'll get that out of the way.
You don't want this one writing a book. Now maybe this one or this one, but not here.
We're not writing a book. But like these guys said, and you know, when Eric presented this idea and Travis was also presenting his idea to Eric, you know, one of the reasons why when I looked at this, I thought, yeah, this is good, is because of how much detail had gone into this. And I'll say this, everything that we've done this weekend and everything that we do as a ministry, whether that be a Man Up Monday, 4:30, 5:30 a.m. call, a weekly podcast, you know, a message on the band, reaching out to a guy who may be distant, every single thing, conference, MOV ministry that falls under that umbrella, and I speak for the four of us, it's about you. Yeah. It's about you as men. Like our hearts are not to see a ministry that becomes, you know, on billboards and, you know, we're authors and all this crazy stuff. We just want to see men step up and lead. Yeah. And we want to see men grow as disciples and then make disciples. And so our hearts behind some of these resources we're talking about is to challenge you, but also to encourage you to be who it is God has called you to be. And that's living for him. And we see this in Romans 12:2. It says, do not be conformed of this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good, acceptable, and perfect. And that's kind of the echo behind some of these things. And even with this year's theme, steadfast, in a year of just unknown, because it is, with all the things happening in the world and just the craziness that's happened lately, in a year of unknown, remain steadfast in the hope, in the love that God has shown upon us. And something we talked about earlier was living under grace, you know, living under that grace that he's given us. And that was Man Up Monday, I believe, from this morning, and just remaining steadfast because he's made a promise and God doesn't go back on his promise. And what's beautiful about our Father is our Father didn't create us to abandon us. And that's what we want. The message we want men to hear is God created you for a purpose. Yeah. He didn't create you to toss you aside and abandon you. You're not just some washed up, unused toy that has no purpose. You have value, you have purpose in God's kingdom. And we want to see you tap into that and become what it is that you can become. And that's why we do what we do. That's why we wear the Men of Valor hat. That's why we have the conference. That's why we do the calls. It's for you. And man, I have benefited from this so much. And so I'm excited about these resources and things that we've kind of put together and talked about. And what's cool is, man, we all come from different lives in different areas, and it's so cool how we just come together and, themes and ideas and plans and stuff just it just works itself out. Like you said, somebody will say something and this person will say, how about this? And another person will add something to it. And next thing you know, we've got this document that's formed. It's like, oh, hey, that's pretty stinking awesome, you know? And so, our hearts are for you and to see you grow. And it's pretty cool to just see how God does that with us collectively.
Yeah, we're also going to be very intentional. Something you may notice going forward, we're going to be very intentional with kind of bringing in some new voices in different arenas and different formats to walk and work with us and to carry the workload. And as this ministry has grown, and if God continues to grow it, we want to make sure we're doing it with excellence and that we're not trying to be everything for everybody or one-man shows.
Yeah.
And so be looking for that. Even as I think of the podcast, we've tried to be more intentional this last year and have a lot more guests on, a lot of different voices, and we're going to keep looking for men that God's just touched their lives, has used them, has done something special that we can bring conversations out. We're looking at some topics coming up on fatherhood and some different dynamics there and how that relates to each of us in different roles in different ways. We're looking at a warrior mindset. We're looking at one thing I'm really excited about. Who knows how the month's going to go, but we're going to do a month podcast series on just men's stuff in general. And this is how I framed it to the guys. Like, how many of us as men were never taught by a dad, like how to shoot a gun or how to clean a gun, how to have gun safety, et cetera, or how to, fish or hunt or, how to take care of a beard. No guy wants to ask another guy, hey, can you walk me through the steps of taking care of your beard? Or just basic stuff, man stuff, working on cars, whatever it might be. What are some basic just conversations, some lessons, some things we can provide around just things that relate to us, things that we go through, things that we have to deal with. And as men, we don't have a lot of guys that we can just talk to and say, hey, can we have a conversation about this? Because there's shame, there's embarrassment, and I don't want to be the only guy that don't know how. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the schedules coming up and what God's moving and shifting. I think we're going to continue to just have some incredible opportunities to have these type of conversations and talk about what God's doing.
Yeah, definitely. Travis, can you give me some beard care tips?
I could. The first one I would say is you need to take this off.
Okay. It's my Indian beard, man. It's a patchy here, a patchy there. A patchy here, a patchy there. I see what I say about it though. God wouldn't let me cover up all this pretty. He made all this pretty, won't let me cover it, and my wife likes it. So
And that's
sure
all
what
that
y'all say.
matters.
Well,
That's all
my
that
week,
matters.
I'm just going to talk about NASCAR the whole time. So, no, I'm excited for that, and you're exactly right. We're trying to broaden our topics and talk about things that you may not expect to hear on a Christian men's podcast, and not saying we're going to get controversial or anything, but like very practical things. This is a very practical ministry.
Yeah.
If it's not, then what are we doing, right? And so we want to give you some very practical things to kind of talk through, work through, and Travis has done a really good job kind of spearheading the podcast and helping us get that. I mean, guys are listening and checking in with it every single week. And man, it's a ministry to me to go back and listen to the episodes that I'm not on and things, and even to go back and listen to the episodes that I am on with the guest speaker, because I'm in the moment I'm leading a podcast, but afterwards it's like, man, how much wisdom is being shared.
I have a giant 2x4 piece of plywood, if you will, as like my desk that my monitor and my microphone, everything sits on. And I'll have to take a picture and post it on the app sometime. Literally all I've done, every time I'm having a conversation with someone on a podcast, I'll hear something. And I'm like, man, that's good. This plywood is just covered with little phrases. And I probably didn't cite a lot of them, so I can't reshare them because it'll be, like I had something brilliant to say, which I didn't. But man, I just love looking at it every time I log on to do a podcast or something, because I'm like, look at all this that God, you're just like, here.
Yeah.
Here's stuff for you to think about, ponder, consider. Here's some reminders of who you are and things like that. So it's really neat, like you said, to go back even and listen to some things that guests say and just think about what God's God's doing. So very, very special. I think we're getting ready to just about wrap up this episode.
Yeah,
Anything
yeah.
else we need to fire off announcement wise?
Have we shared the theme for next year? Okay.
They're not ready.
You don't share too much.
They're not ready.
I'm not sharing too
All right.
much.
They're not.
All right, guys. So, hey, don't forget about, of course, we mentioned it a little bit. Man Up Mondays, available every single Monday, live on Zoom.
Yes.
We'd love for you guys to come join us there, live teaching. Just kind of get your work week started off 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the boys out in Arkansas, 4:30. Man, jump on with us anytime there. Make sure you're on the band. Go get signed up for the conference. Sign up for the 5K when it's ready. And follow us on all our social media platforms. You can find all this information at movministries.org. So if you got any questions about anything?
And share it with somebody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You might be thinking, I'm already connected to everything. Well, find somebody that isn't and share a link,
Yeah.
share an invite, whether it's to the conference, to the podcast. Be a part of changing someone's life.
Yeah. And we've had a lot of guys in the past couple of weeks that's joined up on the band, and we have a question, how did you hear about us? And almost 90% of the time, the answer to that is a buddy invited me.
Yeah.
That's
And
good.
it is somebody sent them a link to our band, said, hey man, come check out this community. So there is power in just sending it to somebody and saying, check it out, where it's the podcast, link to our community. Go be light, help us share the word. It's just part of you slinging some seeds. So be a seed slinger. All right, guys. Hey, we love you so much. Inside joke. Love you so much. Man, we hope to see you guys soon. See you back on the band. You want to go get some lunch? We ate lunch again today, Randall? He had a great salad today. Y'all have to ask him about it.
Listen,
And the scenery.
Ideas on where not to eat. Let me know.
Yeah. All right, guys. Hey, we love you. Hey, keep fighting. Win today. And as always, go light it up for the King. God bless. We'll see you soon.
See you guys.
We hope you've enjoyed today's episode and that you will continue to join us on this journey to make disciples of men. Be sure to check out our social media outlets as well as movministries.org for any information, and be sure to join our digital men's community.
Hey guys, we wanted to let you know that Men of Valor podcast is proud to partner and be a part of the Recovering Fundamentalist Podcast Network. You can find their podcast and many other great podcasts by going to rfpnetwork.org. We would love for you to go and check them out as well. Hey, keep fighting, win today, and as always, go light it up for the King.